where the world ends in the quiet space within you. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not avoidance. Silence is a doorway, a sanctuary, a reset button. And when you learn how to enter it, your entire life changes. Today, we dive into 6 powerful ways silence can transform your life if you dare to step into it. Silence helps you hear what you truly want, but not because silence is empty. It's because silence removes everything that doesn't belong. When life becomes too loud, your inner voice becomes a whisper. You stop hearing your intuition. You stop noticing the things your heart has been trying to tell you for years, and somewhere along the way, you begin living a life that doesn't even feel like yours. But when you intentionally step into silence, you begin noticing a shift. Your mind stops rushing. Your thoughts soften. The pressure melts. And in that stillness, what you truly want begins to surface. It feels almost like meeting yourself again after a long time apart. In silence, the noise of the world fades away. The expectations, the comparisons, the opinions. You stop trying to be who everyone wants you to be, and you start reconnecting with who you actually are. You begin seeing your real desires, not the ones you chase just to impress others, not the ones you cling to because of fear, not the ones you inherited from family or society. You begin to separate what is truly yours from what you've been conditioned to want. And that clarity is powerful because once you recognize what you genuinely desire, you stop settling. You stop tolerating things that drain you. Suddenly, you understand why certain relationships feel heavy. You understand why certain jobs feel suffocating. You understand why certain habits feel empty. Silence doesn't lie. Silence exposes. And sometimes, silence reveals truths you were afraid to face. It shows you that the path you're on might not be the one that fulfills you. It shows you that the people you surround yourself with might not support your growth. It shows you that some dreams you thought you wanted aren't actually yours. But these revelations, as uncomfortable as they may feel, free you. They give you direction. They give you honesty. They give you power. Because once you know what you truly want, your life shifts from autopilot to intention. The beauty of silence is that it reconnects you with intuition, that inner compass you've been ignoring. You start trusting your instincts again. You start making choices that align with your values. You start becoming more you. In silence, you hear the subtle signals your mind and body have been sending you for years. What excites you? What drains you? What brings peace? What brings tension? And instead of brushing those signals aside, you finally pay attention. You begin choosing people who feel like home, opportunities that feel meaningful, and habits that feel nourishing. Silence also gives your dreams space to breathe. When life is loud, your dreams shrink. But in silence, they expand. You start visualizing possibilities you never allowed yourself to imagine. You start feeling the pull towards something bigger. You start realizing that you deserve more than what you've been tolerating. And that realization alone can transform the way you show up in life. You stop chasing things that aren't aligned. You stop apologizing for outgrowing spaces that no longer fit you. You stop forcing yourself into boxes you were never meant to fit in. In silence, you become honest with yourself. And honesty is the foundation of transformation. Because when you finally hear what you truly want, you stop living accidentally and start living intentionally. Silence builds emotional strength in a way that noise never can. Noise distracts you from yourself. It keeps you running, chasing, reacting, escaping. When things get uncomfortable, you scroll. When feelings get heavy, you talk them away. When doubts surface, you drown them in. Busyness. But silence doesn't allow any of that. Silence invites every emotion you've buried to rise up and face you. And at first, that can be terrifying. Not because the emotions are dangerous, but because you finally have to acknowledge what you feel. The truth is, emotional strength isn't created in moments of comfort. It's created in moments of stillness, when you sit with your emotions instead of fighting them. In silence, there is nowhere to run. Your sadness comes forward. Your anger reveals its root. Your fears whisper truths you've ignored. And instead of shoving them away, you finally sit with them. That moment, that pause, is where strength begins. Emotional strength is not the ability to avoid pain. It's the ability to face it without losing yourself. Silence teaches you that emotions are not enemies, they are messengers. They are signals from your inner world telling you something needs attention, something needs healing, something needs changing. When you listen, you understand. When you understand, you grow. When you grow, you become stronger. Silence transforms your relationship with your emotions. Instead of fearing them, you begin to welcome them with curiosity. Why am I feeling this? What is this trying to teach me? What needs to shift in my life? Those questions become a part of your inner dialogue. Silence also helps you separate truth from reaction. So often we speak from irritation, fear, stress, or exhaustion. We react impulsively. We say things we don't mean. We take things personally. But in silence, you create space between your emotions and your actions. You take a breath before responding. You understand the feeling before expressing it. That space is powerful. It protects your relationships. It protects your peace. It protects you from self-sabotaging patterns. Many people believe emotional strength comes from being tough, being unaffected, being unbothered. But the truth is the opposite. Emotional strength comes from being deeply aware of your emotions and yet not controlled by them. Silence gives you mastery. When you sit in silence, you begin to realize that feelings come and go, but they do not define you. They move through you like waves, but you are the ocean. You are bigger than anything you feel, stronger than anything you fear. Silence also reveals resilience you didn't know you had. You realize you've survived every difficulty in your life so far. You realize that even when your world felt like it was falling apart, something inside you kept going, that something becomes clearer in silence. You reconnect with your inner strength, your inner stability, your inner calm, and the more you practice silence, the more unshakable you become. In silence, emotions soften, the intensity fades, the storm passes, and what remains is clarity, strength, and a deeper understanding of yourself. Silence gives clarity in a chaotic world because it allows your mind to breathe. We live in a time where everything is urgent, everything is loud, everything demands your attention instantly. Notifications pull you in 10 directions, opinions flood your mind, expectations weigh on your shoulders, and in the middle of all this chaos, clarity becomes almost impossible to find. But the moment you step into silence, even briefly, you experience a shift. Your thoughts settle, your mind slows, the fog begins to lift. Silence becomes a lens that helps you see life with sharper focus. In the noise, everything feels complicated. Decisions feel heavy. Problems feel bigger than they truly are. Emotions get tangled with assumptions. You react instead of thinking. You rush instead of reflecting. But when you pause and allow silence to replace noise, the complexity dissolves. You begin to see patterns that weren't obvious before. You begin to notice what truly matters and what doesn't deserve your energy. You start to differentiate between what is urgent and what is important. This clarity is life-changing. Silence allows you to step out of the chaos and become an observer. Instead of being consumed by stress, you step above it. Instead of being lost in confusion, you step around it. In silence, you create distance between yourself and your problems. This distance allows you to see solutions more clearly. You understand what needs to be done next. You stop jumping from one thought to another. You become intentional with your thinking. And the more intentional your thoughts become, the more confident your decisions feel. Clarity isn't just about thinking better. It's about seeing better. In silence, you begin to see the truth behind situations. You start recognizing the real reasons behind conflicts. You start understanding people's intentions without guessing. You start identifying patterns in your relationships, habits, and choices. Silence gives you a kind of inner vision that noise never allows. Chaos distracts you. Silence reveals. Silence also gives clarity about yourself. Many people go through life unaware of why they feel stuck, why they feel unfulfilled, why they feel drained. Noise keeps the answers hidden, but in silence, you begin to understand your needs, your limits, your desires. You notice where your energy goes. You notice what brings peace into your life. You notice what steals your joy. And once you notice, everything begins to change. When the outside world is chaotic, silence becomes your anchor. It keeps you grounded. It helps you find direction in moments of confusion. It helps you identify your priorities when everything feels urgent. It helps you choose wisely instead of reacting impulsively. And when you make clear, aligned choices consistently, your life becomes simpler, calmer, and more purposeful. Silence doesn't remove chaos from the world. It removes chaos from within you. And when the chaos inside you quiets down, the world outside stops feeling overwhelming. You begin to navigate challenges with clarity instead of stress. You start moving with intention instead of pressure. You stop letting the noise guide you and you start guiding yourself. Silence rebuilds your confidence in a way that no amount of external validation ever could. Confidence isn't about being loud. It isn't about being the most impressive person in the room. It isn't about showing the world how strong you are. True confidence grows in silence, in those quiet moments when you decide who you are without waiting for someone else to confirm it. Silence strips away the applause, the opinions, the pressure to perform. What remains is the real you, standing face to face with your own truth. When you spend time in silence, you start noticing how much of your identity was influenced by outside voices. So much of what you believe about yourself is shaped by others, their comments, their judgments, their expectations. Noise gives these voices power. Noise makes you doubt yourself. Noise makes you question your worth. But silence returns that power to you. Silence gives you space to hear your own voice again, the one that has been buried under layers of noise and comparison. Confidence is built when you begin trusting your own voice more than the voices around you. Silence makes that possible. When you sit with yourself, you start recognizing your strengths. You start acknowledging your accomplishments. You start owning your story without minimizing it. You begin to see that you've overcome more than you give yourself credit for. You begin to understand that the things you dislike about yourself are often rooted in someone else's expectations, not your truth. Silence also allows you to observe your insecurities without being controlled by them. When you take away the distractions, your fears come forward. And instead of letting them define you, you meet them with curiosity. Why do I feel this? Where did this insecurity come from? What beliefs have I been carrying that no longer serve me? In silence, you break the emotional patterns that made you doubt yourself for years. You begin to separate your real identity from the stories you've been told. Confidence grows when you stop seeking permission to be yourself. Silence teaches you that you don't need approval to speak, to act, to choose, to grow. You learn to validate yourself. You learn to stand your ground. You learn to value your own opinion. And when your self-validation becomes stronger than your need for external validation, you become unstoppable. Silence also gives you the space to reconnect with your values, the principles that define who you are. When you know your values clearly, you stop shrinking yourself to fit into other people's expectations. You start making choices that align with your truth. This alignment builds unwavering confidence because you're no longer living a life shaped by pressure. You're living a life shaped by authenticity. And in the quiet, something powerful happens. You begin to feel enough. Not because someone told you, not because someone praised you, but because you finally see yourself clearly without distortion. You realize you don't have to pretend. You don't have to prove. You don't have to perform. You simply have to be yourself, and that is more than enough. Silence rebuilds your confidence from the inside out. It strengthens your identity. It sharpens your self-belief. It reveals your worth. And once you feel that internally, no amount of noise can shake it. Silence improves your relationships because it reveals what words often hide. Most people think communication is all about speaking, explaining, defending, reacting, convincing. But the strongest communication often happens in the spaces between words. Silence teaches you to listen, not just to the sentences others speak, but to their energy, their tone, their patterns, their intentions. When you slow down, when you stop rushing to reply, you begin to understand what people really mean. You start noticing the truth behind their words. Silence makes you more aware. You catch yourself reacting emotionally, and instead of snapping back, you pause, you breathe, you give yourself space. That pause alone has the power to prevent misunderstandings, arguments, and unnecessary tension. In silence, you see things clearly. The real reason behind someone's frustration, the unspoken pain behind their anger, the insecurity behind their behavior. This level of understanding deepens connection because you stop taking everything personally. You start responding with awareness instead of impulse. Silence also helps you set boundaries. When you step back and observe instead of reacting, you begin to recognize who drains your energy and who nourishes it. You notice who listens to you, who talks over you, who respects your silence, and who becomes uncomfortable. when you're not constantly giving them attention. You start seeing who values you and who only values what you provide. This clarity helps you choose your relationships with more intention. Not everyone deserves access to your time, your mind, or your heart. Silence teaches you that. In silence, you also become a better listener. Not the kind of listener who waits for their turn to speak, but the kind who truly hears. When you listen deeply, people feel seen, they feel understood, they feel safe around you. And when people feel safe, they open up more, they share more honestly, they trust more. Silence creates emotional space for others to express their truth without fear of judgment. Silence also strengthens your presence. When you are fully present, fully grounded, fully tuned in, people feel your energy. You don't need to talk a lot to make an impact. You don't need to dominate conversations to be respected. Your calmness becomes your power. Your stillness becomes your strength. You become someone who others naturally gravitate toward. Not because you're loud, but because you're centered. Silence helps you avoid unnecessary conflict. Instead of escalating small issues, you breathe. Instead of reacting to minor triggers, you reflect. Instead of assuming the worst, you observe. This emotional maturity makes your relationships more stable, more peaceful, and more loving. And the most powerful part? Silence teaches you when to stay and when to walk away. Some relationships are beautiful but unhealthy. Some people are familiar but not good for your growth. Silence gives you the clarity to make those decisions without guilt. You understand that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's necessary. In the end, silence transforms your relationships because it transforms you. The quieter you become inside, the clearer your connections become outside. Silence reconnects you with your purpose because it helps you return to the center of who you are. In daily life, you are pulled in 1,000 different directions. Responsibilities, opinions, expectations, pressure to achieve, pressure to fit in. The world tells you what success should look like, what happiness should feel like, what goals you should chase. And the more noise surrounds you, the more you lose touch with your inner compass. But in silence, you remember, you reconnect, you realign. Purpose isn't found in hustle, it's found in stillness. It's not loud, it doesn't scream for attention. Purpose whispers, and you only hear it when the world becomes quiet enough. In silence, you start noticing the things that genuinely matter to you. You start seeing the difference between what you do for approval and what you do out of alignment. You start recognizing what energizes you and what exhausts you. You begin to rediscover passions you buried because life got busy. You uncover dreams you ignored because you thought they were unrealistic. You reconnect with desires you suppressed because you feared being judged. Silence also reveals what no longer fits. The path you're on, the work you're doing, the people you surround yourself with. Silence brings everything into honest clarity. It shows you what you've outgrown. It shows you what you're tolerating out of comfort instead of passion. It shows you what you're holding on to because of fear instead of purpose. This awareness may feel uncomfortable, but it's transformative. You can't step into your purpose without letting go of what blocks it. Silence exposes those blocks gently but truthfully. Inside silence, you begin to feel your inner calling again. Not the one the world expects, but the one your soul has been whispering since the beginning. It may be a vision, a feeling, a pull, or a clear idea, but it becomes louder as you stay still. You start sensing direction. You understand the next step, even if you don't know the full path. You don't need a map, you need alignment. And alignment begins with silence. Silence also reconnects you with your authenticity. When you stop performing for the world, you start living for yourself. You stop seeking validation. You stop comparing yourself. You stop chasing things that don't fill you. In silence, you become real, and purpose thrives in authenticity. The more you reconnect with who you are, the clearer your purpose becomes. You realize you don't need to be anything other than yourself to live a meaningful life. You don't need to copy anyone. You don't need to compete with anyone. You simply need to be aligned with your truth. And in silence, you realize something powerful. Purpose isn't a destination. It's a way of being. It's a life lived fully, honestly, intentionally. Silence reconnects you with that truth. It brings you back to yourself. It reminds you that you already have everything you need to walk your path: clarity, intuition, strength, and inner guidance. Purpose isn't found in noise. It's found in stillness, the place where your soul finally has the freedom to speak. Silence is not emptiness, and it is not weakness. It is a force, quiet yet powerful, gentle yet unyielding, subtle yet transformational. When you embrace silence, you step into a space where your mind can finally pause, your heart can finally speak, and your soul can finally breathe. In that stillness, you begin to see your life without distortion, to understand your emotions without fear, and to align your actions with your true self. What was once chaotic becomes clear, what was once heavy becomes manageable, and what was once confusing becomes purposeful. In silence, you discover your inner voice, the voice that has been overshadowed by noise, expectations, and the endless chatter of the outside world. That voice guides you, corrects you, challenges you, and inspires you. It shows you what you truly desire, what you must let go of, and what you are capable of achieving. When you listen, when you allow that voice to be heard, you no longer live according to other people's rules or societal pressures. You live intentionally, authentically, and powerfully. Your decisions gain clarity, your confidence grows stronger, and your presence becomes magnetic. Silence also strengthens your emotional resilience and deepens your relationships. By listening before reacting, by observing before judging, and by reflecting before responding, you move through life with patience, empathy, and understanding. You become a person who not only navigates challenges with grace, but also elevates the people around you. Silence creates space for honesty, connection, and authenticity, the pillars of meaningful relationships and a fulfilled life. In that quiet, you realize that being truly present is more valuable than being constantly heard. Finally, silence reconnects you with your purpose. It strips away distractions, illuminates what truly matters, and aligns you with your values and dreams. Purpose is not found in noise, pressure, or approval. It is found in stillness, introspection, and authenticity. When you embrace silence, you reclaim your power, your clarity, and your direction. You become the architect of your life, guided not by external chaos, but by the wisdom, strength, and clarity that come from within. Silence transforms, and once you allow it, there is no limit to what you can achieve. Thank you and goodbye note for uploading commands. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Your presence means a lot, and your attention is the first step toward transformation. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, and share so that it can inspire others too. Remember, silence is a powerful tool. Embrace it, practice it, and let it guide you to a life of clarity, strength, and purpose. Until next time, stay mindful, stay intentional, and keep transforming from within. Thank you, and goodbye.